All right, everybody, welcome to the Tribe Digital Marketing Series. What we're trying to do is bring actionable things to the market. I know we're operating in a new world right now with coronavirus, and we're all trying to figure out how to navigate when events have been canceled. We've reallocating budget. We can't meet face to face with our clients, and yet the show must go on, so to speak, right? So, what this series is dedicated to is bringing people to you that are working day to day in marketing and digital marketing to bring you actionable tips that you can use to help keep business alive during this interesting time. So today I am joined by Mike Barbeau, one of the principals at LeadMD. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. And everyone says Mark. I don't know why, but it's been my entire life. So no worries.
Little flub there, no worries. So Mike, let's let everybody get to know you a little bit. First of all, what are you most passionate about in marketing?
I think it's the messaging component of marketing. It too often people rely on buzzwords or ways to try to make themselves sound smart, but people talk to people as people and not as marketing messages. So making sure that the way you're trying to talk to your customers isn't because of what you read in a B2B textbook, but instead because you know how to say and get people to engage one person to another.
So that's interesting. That probably couldn't be more relevant now than ever
True.
before.
True.
I think messaging is something that we all have to be very aware of in the current environment. We don't want to come off as insensitive. We don't want to come off as disingenuous, I guess is the word. So, what are things that people should be thinking about now when they are trying to launch digital marketing messaging in the current environment?
Well, I think, one of the things that made me laugh the hardest in a time where laughter is sort of hard to find is a post I saw of somebody saying, I never knew I needed to hear about how all the companies that I've ever given my email address to are handling the coronavirus because everybody and their brother is sending one. And look, truth be told, we sent one too, right? I think there
For
is some
sure.
important amount of getting out there to your customers, but I think the most important thing is when not being able to reach people face to face, there are still a various amount of ways to reach out in a human fashion to folks. So all those maybe ancillary pieces that you were going to get to tomorrow of how you could reach your customers, whether it was social channels or through friend-to-friend marketing. Hold on, dear.
Hey,
But
this
that's
is the
happening. I
world we're
bet that's
living in.
happening to a lot of people,
That's the
right?
world
Yeah.
we're living in right now. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
gets back to those more humanitarian efforts that you can do from in terms of marketing of reaching out to people one to one and just acknowledging the fact that this is a new space for everyone. And is there anything that you can do or any ways that you can help out? Because we're all not only operating from different places, but an entirely different world where a lot of the strategies that have worked now are literally impossible to use. So use what's left, be yourself, be human. And really, if you're honest about what you have to offer and somebody needs it, like that's the connective point that you need anyway. So I think it's really getting back again, and that's why I said messaging, like getting back to the message that matters to the other side of the table. If they don't think it matters, you were never going to win anyway. It's not like you can trick people into today's
Right.
world. But if you have something to say that they need, now's the time where people are looking to solve problems they didn't know they were going to have a couple months ago. So just be yourself and get out there.
So, one of the things that is going through my head right now is if you have messaging, likely everybody has something that was in some level of flight before all of this went down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is now the time to scrap completely and start over? Or is it time to just evaluate and take a look of how you can pivot?
I think it's evaluate. Like I even got a message from the local brewery down the street that was so salesy that 6 hours later they were sending me an apology that they hadn't referenced or acknowledged, what was going on. And yet, 2 days later I got another one and it was like because they had sort of acknowledged what was happening, they gave themselves license to reach out. And I think there's just a little bit of that needs to happen is look at what's coming up and is it tone deaf in the form of what's happening
Mm-hmm.
or do you feel like you've done a job, because we're all living in the reality we want commerce to continue.
Right.
We don't want everything to shut down because of this. So
100%.
people still have to buy stuff, they still have to market stuff, and that wheel will continue to turn hopefully. But just look and make sure that you don't have something out there that's so So ignorant to the fact of what's happening in the world, that you could punch yourself in the face by sending it out. And again, there's some channels that, maybe just go on email. It's a pretty passive way to talk to people, but
Sure.
especially when you're getting into some of those things that might be more one-to-one, then just make sure that you're not being that guy, because it's going to be easier to be that guy now, easier than ever, really. And
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I like that concept of acknowledgement a lot. It's very tactical and very simple.
Yep.
And it's something you can do really across channels. I mean, regardless of what you're doing. I don't know how long the acknowledgement message has to go on. I think there's some experimentation that might need to happen there, but that seems like a really good place to
I
start.
agree. And I think, I've even counseled a few clients on this already. Don't, be very cognizant of including any kind of offer within the acknowledgement of what's happening, because that is I would call it near impossible. I bet you could do it, and depending on your
Sure.
industry, of course, but like, I just would never want to be out there saying, hey, because of everything that's happening, we're at home, here's a new whatever. Like, it doesn't work that way. But
Right.
we even saw one today at work where Kirsten had shared, and I'm sure you're going to talk to her, shared something
Absolutely.
that was for a new dining room table that said, because we're all tired of the kitchen counter, right? Like, and I'm sitting here at a kitchen counter right now. So there's little ways where you can acknowledge what's happening without having to sort of belabor the pandemic nature of it, and just
For
sort of
sure.
say like, hey, we have something that might be helpful. And I think, selling B2B stuff is different than selling a new,
Consumer product. Yeah.
a new consumer product. But I don't think, when you're looking, going back to the beginning of people talking to people, like, if you're trying to engage at that level, like, people do buy B2B things. At the end of the day, it isn't a
Sure.
company, it's still a person. So I think when you think of it that way, it's a good way to reevaluate your message and sort of how we're going to get things out there in these kinds of times.
Okay. So my key takeaways are two things: acknowledgement and a little bit of levity.
Yeah.
Tasteful levity maybe is
Yeah. Yeah.
the way to approach that.
Yeah.
All right, Mike.
And
Well, certainly appreciate your time. Hopefully this is helpful for everybody that takes a second to watch this, and we can do our part to keep commerce moving forward in a trying time.
sounds good. That's the hope, right?
Absolutely.
Next time I'll shave too. So
Eh, you know,
all
awesome.
right.
Thanks, Mike.